Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bas Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody, wherever you're tuning in or watching on the podcast. Make sure you follow the podcast on YouTube. Type in the Social Work Rants podcast, hit that red subscribe button. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at the Social Work Rants podcast. That's all one word. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Social Work Rants. Hit the like button on Facebook, aka Meta. Just type in the Social Work Rants podcast. Hit the like button. Tune in, tap in. If you listen to Spotify or any audio platform, make sure you rate the podcast. I would really, really, truly appreciate it. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. Social workers, mental professionals, change agents, we're doing something a little different today. We want to talk about some entrepreneurship. This episode is dedicated to the 75% of my female listeners. Men, you could definitely tune in and listen to some gems that are about to be dropped today. I've been following this talented, amazing young woman for at least a couple years now on Instagram and shooting my shot. And here we are today and making it happen. Talking about entrepreneurship. And if you got an idea, I've been saying kind of ad nauseum for at least maybe like 6 months. So we in the COVID era, the era of shooting your shot. So this is how I made this happen. So please, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, business. And my guest, Victoria Jenn Rodriguez. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad we could finally connect one-on-one.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Besides your trainings that you do.
Yeah, man, listen, you have been such a dope supporter of mine. And anybody who, sometimes people, they comment on people's things on social media or they send messages like, no, they're never going to see that. Trust me, we pay attention and it is all love. And you always show up. You're always commenting. You're always liking. You're coming to my classes. So when my assistant told me that you wanted me to be on your podcast, I was like, yes, absolutely. I got to share the love and I got to support the community that supports me. So thank you for having me.
No, of course. This episode is sponsored by Bass City Entertainment, your home for holistic online self-care for mental health professionals and social workers focusing on poetry and Zumba with the upcoming book, Triumph Through Pain, How to Maximize Your Full Potential During Hard Times, coming out later this summer. It's in the works, y'all. I've been talking about it for months. It's almost there. So in God's will. So like I said, we've been doing something a little different. Victoria, tell people your story, how you got started in entrepreneurship. I know you were working corporate jobs, and I've seen a big push in the social work field about transferring your skills and getting into corporate from doing clinical work. So how do you make the switch from corporate to what you're doing now as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, sure. So I was in corporate for 15 plus years. I started on Wall Street, did sales and trading for several years, worked in pharmaceuticals, healthcare, consumer product goods. I even worked on legislation in Washington and Albany. And 5 years ago, I got laid off by my last corporate gig. I was at Johnson & Johnson. I was heading up talent management. And okay, let me set the story straight. They didn't lay me off per se. They asked if I wanted to relocate to Tampa to do my job out there. And I said, do I look like a Tampa girl? No shade to no Tampa folks, but I'm more of a Miami girl. Like, I'm not going to Tampa. Plus they wanted me to, decrease my salary to the rate that they had out in Tampa. And I was like, oh, hell no, we don't rock that way. We only go up. And so I gracefully bowed out. And at the time, I was still looking for another corporate gig. Entrepreneurship wasn't really on my radar. I wasn't thinking about entrepreneurship. And so I kept going on interviews. I was making it to final rounds and I just wasn't able to close. And it was a harsh reality for me because I'm a closer, I get shit done. And so, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your podcast.
It's all good. I'll curse from time to time.
Okay. And so I took it as a sign from the universe, from God to say, you know what, V, why don't you bet 1000% on you, see what you can make happen. Worst case scenario, you can always go back to corporate. They'll always be there. But let's see if you can kind of do your own thing. And 5 years later, I have 3 successful high earning 6-figure businesses on my way to hit 1 million this year. And it's been quite the journey.
Oh, that's amazing. Congrats on that. Like,
thank you.
Now these businesses, like how for somebody that's like, I have this idea, should I do it? And I know a lot of us, even non-social work, and social work, talk about imposter syndrome and this and that. Somebody has an idea, like, should I do this? Should I not? Like, how can someone transfer from idea to is not a hobby? Like, this is what I'm going to do, like a full time, and trying to make some money out. What are the steps that somebody needs to take for that to happen?
Yeah, sure. I actually have a free training, and maybe you can give this to your audience in the show notes. But in that free training, I talk about the 3 steps that people can take to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship without losing their financial security, even if they don't know what type of business to start. And this is important because a lot of people feel stuck in the corporate world because of the benefits, because of the salary, because they think that there's security, right?
Right.
But we all know with the latest announcements, the great resignation, layoffs are coming crazy, recession is upon us, that there really is no security blanket. You are your own security blanket. And so the first thing that I would advise folks to do if they want to make this transition and they have an idea is to verify your idea, which means that you need to do some research to make sure that there's an actual market for what it is that you're bringing to the table. And the easiest way for you to get a business up and going and for you to actually make money is for you to solve a major pain point for people, something that people are searching for and there's just no answer for. So, there's a joke that a friend of mine always shares with me, that people start businesses because they want to pursue their passions, but smart people start businesses because they're solving for people's problems, meaning they're creating something that somebody else wants. And that's why they're getting paid. And that's why they're able to scale. So the first piece of advice would be to verify your idea and make sure that you're pursuing something that actually has potential for you to get paid and make money.
That makes a lot of sense. Now I hear everybody talking about, do your research. Do your research. Like, how did it could be like over? I'm sure for a lot of people overwhelming. Like, you talking about like do a random Google search or like what would be like a good way to actually do research on whatever idea somebody might have?
Yeah, awesome question. I mean, it could be as simple as, let's say you want to start a jewelry line. You can Google jewelry line market cap. And that market cap will tell you how active that market is. And you can also start doing research on where that industry is moving toward, so you know if it's something for you to pursue or not. So for example, a lot of people want to start podcasts, right? Now, for me, the reason why I want to start a podcast is not so much because I love to talk and I want people to listen in. It's more because I understand the data that's telling me that audio is just going to continue to grow. It's already $1 billion industry. It's going to head towards the trillions because that's the direction of where people are going. Audio coupled with video. Right. So I know that because I ran the research and I read, right. And I figured out, okay, where's this market heading towards, so that I know if I'm going to invest my time and energy on building something in this space, the data is telling me that there's a high probability that I'll be successful. And so it's that type of research that you need to do. It's like, just ask random questions like, what's happening in the beauty industry? What are the negative stories in the beauty industry, etc. And then take it from there.
Cool. I had lost you for a hot second.
Oh, damn. Okay.
No, it's all good. I'll figure out how to edit that. But you were dropping some gems there. Now, one of the pivot, because you did something incredible on IG Live with your Woman Who Roars series, as we talk about podcasting real quick. Now, how did you come up with that IG series, live series, and how did you come up with the guests?
Yeah. So I never shared, nobody asked me how I came up with the idea. So you're getting like the exclusive right now. And I never shared it, but it happened because my ex-boyfriend at the time was spending a lot of time in my house. During COVID, we were all kind of like on lockdown, and he started doing interviews on IG Live. And it was before like IG Live became like what everybody was doing, right?
Right.
And I saw him just having so much fun with it. It was something that was keeping him excited. It was something that he was learning from. He was interviewing some really cool guests. And every year I had put on a Woman Who Wore summit through my nonprofit, the Female Collaborative. And so I said, you know what? This is pretty cool. I'm going to do a Woman Who Wore IG Live series. And I'm going to invite the favorite people that I follow on Instagram and like female icons and women who I believe who roar. And similar to you, how you shoot your shot to get me on your podcast, I did exactly the same thing. I was all up in their DMs and I was like, hey, listen, I'm starting this series. We're in lockdown. We need your voice. We need people to hear your story. Will you do me the honor of being on this IG Live series? And it was that simple. It was that easy. And that's how I was able to secure my guests.
Now, for people who don't follow you, who were like some of your guests that you had? Because you have some amazing people.
Yeah. So some of them, all of them were amazing. All of them were people that I respected and admired. And so all of them are 1,000 with me. But some of my ultimate faves, so I was able to get Suze Orman, who is like, who's been an idol of mine since I was like back on my Wall Street days. And I got her to come on. I got Soledad O'Brien, who, is an iconic journalist, Latina. I got her to come on. I got Sally Krawcheck, who's the former CEO over at Citi. And she was like one of the first women CEOs on Wall Street. So she was on the show. Rosanna Scotto. So anyone who is in the New York tri-state area, I think she's on channel 11 or 5.
Channel 5.
Channel 5. She's on like Good Morning America, one of those good morning shows. So she was on my show. Swin Cash, who's a former WNBA Olympic champion, just like killer ass, amazing woman, Nicole Lionel, like all the faves that you have on Instagram were pretty much on the show. And it was really successful. We had over 4 million downloads, and it is a project I'm really, really proud of.
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. I was tuning in. I'm like, oh snap, got Rosanna Scotto and Suze Orman.
Yes.
Rosanna Scotto is like the queen of New York news in the morning.
Yes, she is.
Oh man, that's really great. Like, so you really just DM people and they responded and actually came on.
This is what I'm saying. Like, people are on their social media, so like, shoot your shot, send the DM. Worst thing, they don't answer, but so what?
Right.
Send the DM. You'd never know, right? You'd never know. And I didn't know. I had no prior relationships with many of the women that I reached out to. I just showed my appreciation for what they brought to the app. I showed my appreciation for their work. And I think it was just at a time where we were all looking for connection.
Right.
And so it was like kind of like the right time, right place kind of vibe. And I think also just reaching out to them from a place of gratitude and appreciation got their attention.
No, that it definitely came across during the interviews that you had. How was lockdown for you? The whole pandemic experience. I mean, pandemic that we're still in, but like the very beginning, like how was it for you?
It was tough. I mean, I think all of us had a shared experience in the sense of it being out of this world, like nothing we've ever experienced before. And it took a lot of adapting, a lot of adjusting. I know, so me, I'm an extrovert, so I get energy from being outside. I get energy from being around people. And so here was this moment in time where I couldn't leave my house, and it was really, really hard. It was really, really hard, because I felt like the energy source was no longer available to me, and it got really super lonely. It was a dark place for a while.
And how you managed to like get out of that to continue like do your businesses, do your nonprofit stuff, like
Yeah,
how was that for you?
so there was a moment there where I was stuck. I was stuck for a while. I was trying to like figure out what I wanted to do next, what was going to bring me the energy, right? And this was after the Woman Who Wore series. So this was after that finished. This was like, okay, now what? What else am I going to do to kind of keep me going and keep me excited about life, and jazzed up? And I really wasn't finding any answers. And so I really tapping into my faith and started becoming more spiritual and started really focusing on, okay, how can I get a better relationship with God? How can I just evolve spiritually? And I'll share an experience with you that I had that was the start of the shift. It wasn't the complete shift, but it was a start. I went to go visit when we were allowed to go semi outside. I went to go visit a board member that I had on my nonprofit at the time in California. She was gracious enough to let me stay at her home while she was away. And she had this beautiful backyard. It was like this gorgeous oasis. It was just such a peaceful, beautiful backyard. And I had went out to dinner, and I remember coming back that night, walking out to the backyard. And I was just like, God, if you're out there, like, I need some kind of sign. I need something, like, I need you to like show me that you're real, because I'm at my wit's end at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, this like wind came and slapped me across my face. Mind you, it wasn't a windy night. There was no wind in sight, like nothing. But immediately after I said those words out loud, that happened. And I was like, this is it. Like this gotta be the sign.
Right.
And then the next day I met up with a girlfriend, and she had me go through this practice of Kundalini yoga. And Kundalini yoga is very much focused on like the feminine energy, very much focused on getting centered and balanced. So we're doing our practice, and then out of nowhere, that same wind, same force hit me again. And I just started bawling, crying out of control. And it was just like such a release of all the weight, of all the fear, of all the insecurity, of all the loneliness was kind of like lifted. And it was from that moment on that the shift started to happen, where I started to begin to crawl out of the black hole that I was in.
Yeah, God does some amazing things, and you
Yeah.
ask for a sign, He's gonna give it to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's about time. I mean, it just took me a couple of years, but I'm happy He came when He came. And now, I just spend more time in continuing to build up the faith and all that stuff.
Now, tell me more about your nonprofit. I've been learning if you have a business, you could have a nonprofit, I guess, arm or link to your business. That way, that's a trick to, you got student loans that you could use your own nonprofit to pay off your loan in a way, like kind of like in a way from what I've been reading or figuring out. Learning.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different types of nonprofits.
Right.
So there's a 501c3, there's a 501c6. There's something called the self-sufficient nonprofit. I believe that's the terminology.
I never even heard the 501c6.
Yeah. So 501c6 is like kind of like a membership kind of nonprofit. So there's different levels within the nonprofit space. So you'll definitely have to do your research. But what I settled on was a 501c3, because at the time, my main objective with the organization was to host the Woman Who Wore Summit, was to have leadership development programs for women, and I wanted to get corporate sponsorships. And so a 501c3 designation allows for these organizations that write you a check to write it off, right? And it's a tax incentive for them.
Right.
and the government rewards them for donating to a 501c3. So that's why I decided to go the 501c3 route, which is an arm under my VJR Enterprises, which is kind of my main entity. And then I have a couple of pillars underneath that, one being the nonprofit, the Female Collaborative, which focuses on revolutionizing how women work and do business together.
How can one be a part of that for the women who listening or want to? I know collaboration is, we need to collab more, which is why we here, why we doing this podcast and stuff like that. But like, people will always talk about like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and there's so much info out there that one gets stuck with having too much information. They end up not doing anything. But if one wants to be a part of your nonprofit or somehow get involved or do something with you, how can somebody get involved with you?
Yeah, so the Female Collaborative, you can visit the website, thefemalecollaborative.com. You can join the mailing list, and we'll be sharing some information about the Women Who War Summit that's going down in 2023 and some fall events that are coming. But if you're interested in learning about the transition from corporate into entrepreneurship, you should dig into the Dare to Leap Academy, which is my on-learning platform that teaches women how to make that transition using the same framework that I used when I made the transition. So we focus on business fundamentals, like the difference between an LLC and an S Corp, business credit, business taxes, all the stuff that entrepreneurs have no idea about until they find themselves in a situation. They're like, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so we cover business fundamentals, we cover mindset, right? So how do you master your mindset through that transition? And then once you're a full-time entrepreneur, how do you stay focused? How do you stay in the game? Especially when you have things going on in the external market, like a recession and all these things that can discourage you. So how do you master your mindset through that? And we also focus on sales and monetization and marketing. So, how do you actually package your offer? How do you sell to corporate and government agencies to go after like big contracts? How do you market yourself? How do you use social media to sell your product or service? How do you use your personal brand to sell your product or service? So it's really a 360 holistic approach from start to finish on everything you need to know to start, launch, and actually monetize doing your own thing, which is really super exciting. And we're the only academy in the market that brings everything together, where you only have a one-stop shop for everything you need to start and launch your business. And they can find out more information at dtlacademy.biz.
That's like everything that they should have taught us in social work. They teach us how to do a private practice, but teach none of the fundamentals on business.
Exactly. They leave out the business fundamentals, which is like the foundation of everything that you do, And when I first started my business, I had no idea. In my first year and a half in business, I had made the most money that I have ever made in my career. And I ended up having to pay Uncle Sam like 30 grand that year. And like, it still hurts me. And the reason why I had to pay him 30 grand is because I didn't know the game on business taxes, right? I didn't know what I didn't know, right? It wasn't until I had to pay 30 grand that I was like, oh, I got to pay attention to this. Like, I got to figure out what this is. So the Dare to Leap Academy is essentially a hub of all my intellectual property. So all the mistakes I've made, all the lessons I've learned, the wins, I basically put it all in this online learning platform so that you don't have to make the same mistakes as me. And you can actually move at an accelerated rate instead of trying to figure out everything on your own, because I already went through it all for you. So now all you have to do is show up and execute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And men could join too?
They can. I have men in the program. I do. We are an inclusive community. I mean, the way that it's marketed that it's for women, but we are open to fellas. We have a couple of men that are inside the program already. So yes, we are open and receiving of our male allies for sure.
Yeah. See, man, I told you I got you. You just had to be patient.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, but this is great info, and this season this is season 4 of the podcast, and I've been trying to lean more towards the entrepreneur route, and with my own startup, and I'm learning as I'm going, and making a couple of them. Like you say, you don't know what you know, and just learning. Kind of, you may have to go backwards, do stuff backwards a little bit to get your shit together how it's supposed to be. But you learn and you move on, and gotta like keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would offer to folks is like, stop trying to figure it out on your own. You're wasting time. You're also leaving money on the table, because the time that you can save to just hire someone who's done it so you can just get going is costing you, right? So it's like opportunity costs that you're constantly foregoing because you're choosing to do the YouTube University, and you're choosing to go to Google University and like try to figure it out on your own. It is a bad practice that we tend to do because we think we know it all. We think we're smart enough. And actually, the smartest thing that you can do is go and pay an expert so that you can get where you're trying to go faster, right? Instead of you trying to figure it out on your own, right? It's like when you have a health issue, you go to the doctor, right? Because you can't figure it out on your own, regardless of how many Google searches you try to do, right? You have to go see the expert. So it's the same thing with business and how you handle your career. Why would you try to do that on your own? It's like you're setting yourself up for failure. So definitely will encourage anyone who's interested in starting a business, who's interested in kind of betting on themselves, monetizing their expertise, is to seek out an expert who is where you want to be and pay them so they can teach you everything that they know. So you don't have to waste time, right? You don't have to waste time or energy. You just go to the source. Boom. You got what I need. Give it to me so I can just go.
What if you're starting out, you don't have the money? Like, what do you do?
You find it. I get that excuse all the time of, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have this. And it's just like, oh, but you found money to go on that vacation. You found money to go spend $1,200 to Mexico. Like, you find money for what you want. They'll find money for shoes. They'll find money for a new bag, for a new car, right? So it's about prioritizing. How are you prioritizing things in your life? And people will try to be like, oh, well, it's self-care. I need to go away on this vacation. No, that's you trying to justify the escape that you're trying to make from your life versus you chilling, putting that money into your business and investing in yourself so that you can go on vacation and you don't have to take a vacation to get away. You actually make it a lifestyle, right? Now, my lifestyle is I go away on vacation and my laptop is coming with me for sure, but I am not, I manage my schedule, right? I manage when the calls are happening. I manage when I need to be on a call, when I don't need to be on a call. I can work from anywhere. And that is a lifestyle that I've created. And everybody thinks that the work from everywhere model is so cool, but it's even cooler when you're doing it for yourself. Because you can work from anywhere, but you still got to be plugged in 8 hours a day. Like you still got to show up. Right. And now companies are catching on. They're like, nope, turn on your video. I want to see where you at. I need to see you. So, gone are the days of you being able to BS your way through a working from home situation. And so just really think about what are your priorities and stop making the excuse of you don't have money. What you should say is, I'm not willing to do the work to find the money to make this investment, because that's really what it is, right? And just some tips for people who feel like they don't have money. Think about the resources at your disposal. Do you have credit? Listen, education, right? So people who buy into the Dare to Leap Academy, for example, is considered education, which is a tax write-off, both on your business side as well as on your personal taxes, right? So instantly you're being able to write that off. So if you have a credit card, you have good credit, put it on your credit card. Like there is a rhyme or reason to everything that you put your mind to and everything that you want to bootstrap. And entrepreneurship is very much about bootstrapping. You have to solve problems every single day. Even if you have no idea where to start, you've never solved this problem before, you have to be scrappy enough to figure it out. And so the first test is, let's see if you scrappy enough to figure out how to get this money. Do you need to go ask abuela for $1,000? Do you need to go ask somebody for $500? Do you need to create your own crowd fund? Do you need to create a GoFundMe page? Like, people are lazy. They're lazy, and they rely on the excuse of not having money to justify why they are not doing the hard work to go and get the money so that they can change their circumstances.
Right, of course. Even some from what I learned is, who do you bank with, and like apply for business credit. If you already have a relationship with somebody, just go out and get it. The worst that they could say is no. They might initially run your credit one time, and eventually it'll come off. And that's how I landed my first business credit card, and they gave me a good amount of money. Like, I'll take what I could get
Right,
to
exactly.
start off, and like and it helps. So that's a start. Or if you got a mortgage, okay, you pay to some sort of bank. It would be whatever banking, and just like, hey, like, I already have a mortgage with you guys. Can I apply for a business credit, and see what they say?
Not only that, like, since everybody likes to be a Google master, Google grants. There are tons of organizations giving out money for people who want to start businesses. So go apply for a grant. That costs you $0. $0 to go apply for a grant. But people are lazy. They don't want to do the necessary work. They rather find comfort in them trying to justify the reason why they are not bettering their circumstances versus doing the hard work and being like, you know what, I'm the problem. I'm not doing enough. I need to step up, and I need to make this happen no matter what. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. What you have anything going on? We like at the halfway point of 2022. You have anything going on in the fall?
Yeah, so my main focus is getting more students inside the Dare to Leap Academy. So my goal is to get 500 students by the end of this year. So that is something that I am spending a lot of time on, and is my primary focus really from now until the end of this year.
No, it sounds good. No, keep up, the great work. It was great finally connecting one-on-one. That's not one of your trainings or an IG live or something, and able to kick it one-on-one. So
yeah, and thank you so much for being always so supportive. I appreciate you.
No, of course, especially we're Latinos or Hispanic, Latinx, whatever we want to call ourselves this week. Like, we gotta stick together, because we keep getting shitted on by the government and everybody else.
Everybody.
So
yes.
We gotta support each other.
Yes. All right. Well, mucho gusto. Thank you so much.
Igualmente, cuídese.